Hello, DeMatha Nation. My name is Corey Puffett, DeMatha class of 2010 and current faculty member. A few weeks ago, we interviewed a few stags who were in the mix for the NFL draft, and we promised then that we would return to interview some DeMatha people outside of the athletic arena. So here we are. We hope to continue doing this as a way to keep the DeMatha community engaged as we continue to manage during this pandemic. These next few interviews include graduates who, in their own special ways during this crisis, are trying to make a difference. I'm joined today by staff member Ben Flary, class of 2011, who will be helping me interview these graduates. Today's guest is Chuck Kozlowski, class of 1977. Chuck, it's great to have you today.
Good to be here. Thank you very much.
I'm really excited to talk with you and our other DeMatha community members who have stepped up in various ways through this pandemic. Recently, NBC Washington did a story about you, as well as a local high schooler who have been making face shields for our medical professionals using 3D printers. You initially got your 3D printer to make toys for your grandchildren. So what inspired you to repurpose your machine and make PPE for our frontline workers?
So about 5 weeks ago or 6 weeks ago, my nephew in Southern California has a 3D printer, and he had done a Facebook posting saying he was now 3D printing face shields. And I had an old 3D printer laying around. It had been gathering dust this past year or so. Grandkids got kind of tired of the plastic parts that I was delivering. So they have other more fun toys they'd rather me buy for them. So the nephew was doing that in Southern California. His mom, my sister, is a nurse. And right away, they said, yeah, you can't make enough of them. So I fired up my printer. I had enough spare parts to build a second one. I bought 2 more. So I now have 4 running. And then somebody donated me a printer during this time. So I now have 5 printers, actually all 5 in the background running right now.
That's fantastic.
So the really cool part is I'm 5 or 6 weeks into this, and the need has not been met. We continue to be delivering to local hospitals. I personally deliver to AAMC, Anne Arundel Medical Center, and then an urgent care facility in Gambrills, Maryland, which is pretty close to where I live as well. And shockingly enough, the PPE for the state of Maryland continues to be an issue. They're just not getting enough. So face shields, I've told them, I said, I'll stop making them when you tell me you don't need them anymore. And that word is not coming back. So we're up to basically making about 50 a day. Here's an item. So it's the shield, which we cut. I've got some cutters upstairs that my wife and my son are doing. And then here's the headband. The headband is what actually gets manufactured on the 3D printer. About 80 of these come off of the printer. It takes about 10 hours to print them. The printers are pretty good, so they don't need a lot of care and feed.
Chuck, I've been actually very intrigued by the concept of this 3D printing, but I haven't really, gotten around to really learning how it works. I was surprised to learn that it takes about an hour or so to make just one face shield. So could you just maybe talk about how the 3D printing works?
Yeah. Let me get a piece of material to show you, and then I'll walk you through the steps.
Sweet.
So to be clear here, I'm not in the NFL draft this year, by the way. I think my years of eligibility. And I'm glad you're featuring the non-athletes of the institution. Although I did play tennis for the school.
Awesome.
I played soccer, so back in the day. So you start off with filament. This happens. There's about 8 different filament types you can use. This is called PLA. Don't ask me what the PLA stands for, but it's basically the raw material for the shield. And what happens is, I'll take this and see if I can not break it. So I think you can see that. There you go. So what's happening is there's a hot end right there that's heated to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And it basically is taking the raw material, that PLA, and squeezing it through a very small nozzle and then laying it down a layer by layer. So it's kind of like it's a 2D printer, except it's got a Z-axis as well. So it moves up. It does about, these 8 shields that are getting made right now will take about 10 hours. So a little over an hour per shield. You can use all types of different material. I use PLA because it's relatively easy to produce. The bed that you see also is heated to about 180 degrees Fahrenheit, so it sticks to the bed. They run really well, so I can just hit print and off they go, and I come and check them in about 8 or 9 hours, and then they're usually done.
That's fascinating. Yeah, I was just gonna say that's all. I mean, that looks crazy.
Yeah, it takes a bit of tinkering. You do not want to. This is not like a regular old printer. This isn't ready for. You just don't necessarily just hit a button and it goes by itself. You got to there's a lot of care and feeding. 3D printing's been around for now 15, 20 years. It's pretty affordable for home use now. You can buy printers for as cheap as $300, and you can go up to a couple $1,000. These ones are built by a company out in the Czech Republic called Prusa, Prusa.
Okay. Wow, that's impressive. So as you work on these face shields, and you said you're producing about 50 of them a day, 10 per printer, and you got 5 printers running. I mean, they're basically working from when you wake up until probably not too long before you go to sleep.
Yeah. So actually they run overnight as well. So I can they're running 24/7.
Oh, awesome.
So the thing that wears out is there's bearings in there, belts, and those are the things I have to replace about every 3 or 4 weeks. I got to go through a little maintenance process with them.
So as you're doing that, I mean, I guess it's nice that you can pretty much set it up and let it run on its own, because you're also working a full-time job as a NASA engineer.
Yeah, so I've been working for NASA for coming up on 40 years. We're able to telework, so that's been really good. So it's still the pay still rolls in, which is good. The wife likes that, and the kids. Because a lot of folks out there, as we know, right, they're home and they're not getting paid. That's not a good. I got a couple kids in that situation right now that have had to stop, working because we have the stay-at-home orders from the state of Maryland. So I feel very blessed. For NASA, I'm a system engineer. Work on satellite program that provides communication for space station, any launch vehicles that you see on the news. We usually provide communications for. So I've been in that field for many, many, many years.
Awesome. My dad works IT. He's at Goddard Space Flight Center. So
yeah, and I'm at Goddard. Do you know what building he's in by any chance?
I don't know which building he's in.
Pretty
actually.
Big campus.
It is.
Chuck, so before we let you go, you're a 77 grad. I'd be fascinated to hear some of your favorite memories of your time at DeMatha.
So I have a number of them. Do we have an hour or two? We were just a computer lab in 1977, and most of my senior year was spent not going to class, but in that computer lab with a bunch of other unnamed miscreants. I just will leave that for history to go find out. But that really launched my ability to go. I went to Maryland, got a degree in engineering, obviously after that. But being around computers, it was a fun time. We had an HP, had a 14-inch platter. I think it had a megabyte of storage on it, which is kind of laughably small, right? Because we all walk around with these little things with many, many gigabytes. Yeah. It was bootstrap loaded with this little paper tape, which nobody even knows about. We used Hollerith cards, which nobody knows about. All these things are fun things of the past, but it set me up in a career to go be, I guess, pretty technical. So I have DeMatha to thank for that. Specifically, Rocco Manella, he was my calculus and physics teacher. It's a blast from the past. He was awesome. So I had 2 years of calculus and physics underneath of him. Morgan Wooten was my history teacher. I think he was a history teacher for every freshman that was going through the school. Besides obviously being an awesome human being and a great coach, he was actually a really good history teacher. Yeah. So I remember we all had to do those freshman presentations. They were absolutely nerve-wracking. And the question he asked me at the end of my 45 minutes was, what were the name of the 2 atomic weapons that were dropped in Japan? Of course, I had no idea, little boy and big man. Well, I've never forgotten since then. But that was a good memory. It was a great school. It was a great time. Went by way, way too quickly. And it happened a long time ago.
And Chuck, just to kind of follow up on that, how do you feel that DeMatha helped shape and prepare you for everything you've done since?
I think academically, it was a really, really tough school. And so that was really good for me going into the university environment. I found that transition wasn't nearly as difficult as I saw other friends go through. So DeMatha had done a really great job. I think also some of the friendships that I developed, I'm still in touch with a couple of those folks over the years. So those have lived with me my entire life. So that's been also fantastic.
Absolutely. All right. Well, want to thank you first and foremost for your time joining us today.
Thank you.
We're really glad to be able to talk to you and some of our other DeMatha community members who are stepping up and making a difference during this time. Keep up the great work and keep making that PPE for our medical professionals. They need every bit of it.
Thanks so much, Chuck.
Okay. Have a good one, guys.
All right.
Thank you too.
One DeMatha. Hello, DeMatha family. Thank you for joining me and Ben Fleury for this series of interviews celebrating DeMatha alumni who are using their skills to help their communities through this pandemic. We hope to continue producing these interviews for our community, so if you or anybody you know is a DeMatha alum and are doing something to help your community during this crisis, please contact me or Ben Fleury. Our email addresses are at the bottom of your screen and in the YouTube video description. We'd love to hear from you and have a conversation with you for the DeMatha community as we celebrate all of the things, big and small, we are doing to help each other through this difficult time.